Starting this a few minutes early, just to give people a chance to start seeing what this looks like. This is June 6th. It is my Hopeful Business Intensive, and we'll get started in about 15 minutes. And we'll get started in about 15 minutes. Hello. Okay, sharing it. Excellent. Hey, Christina, if you're out there and watching, there's a little time delay on this, but can you please just say that you're hearing me well on the chat function? Haven't heard from you in about 15 minutes, and I want to make sure you're still out there and connected. Thanks. showing up soon.
How many signed up?
There are 4 of you.
Or how many signed up entirely? I saw the list of names.
4.
Oh,
4 of you signed up.
so not all of those names over there are even showing up then, since you've been talking to people
Oh,
online.
there's 4 names on that list.
Oh, no, how many in the class, including online?
4.
Oh, okay.
The answer remains 4. 1 person online and 3 of you live.
Ah, okay. So yeah, so at least one of those will not be physically here then, yeah, okay.
Yes, but it seems strange to not have her name on the list, so I kept it on the list.
Got it.
But I haven't heard from her in a few minutes, so I'm a little nervous she hasn't made it on. Google Hangouts is really, really, really wonderful, but it has one little error, not an error, but a design flaw. In that,
May not be seeing inside your screen.
Susanna?
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, this helpful business workshop. That's us.
Yeah, that's what you signed up for.
I'm a little sleepy.
That's all right.
I'm sleepy. Hi.
Hi.
Good to see
Good
you.
to see you, sweetie. There are your cards.
Ah, awesome. Thank you so much.
Let me just.
Ooh. I didn't think about the weight.
Yeah, you can leave them there for now.
No, I was thinking about where to pack them.
Oh, you walked from.
No. In the suitcase. I'm trying to go with one, but I might take 2.
Yeah, those are a bummer. Taking them all the way to Mexico and bringing them all the way back, that was a bore. That was a major bore.
I can, yes.
So this is Susanna Saw.
That's all. It is soil, S-O-L.
So when you have a chance,
Makeup name tag for myself.
yeah.
I'm gonna put this with my shoes, so I just wanna make sure I don't forget them. And maybe. And if you need some socks, I
Susanna.
got them, I brought,
Ah,
because I
yes, the
remember.
people who get experienced and know to bring their own socks.
I want my feet warm, that's what I like.
I do too. Once my feet go cold, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Or my hands, either or. And feel free to spread yourselves out. I probably have an extra chair or 2, but I like to be prepared in case someone registers at the door, which does happen on occasion.
No, the question is where I put them. Oh.
I have people who have specifically their constellation slippers. They just do.
Really?
Yes, those slippers are for constellations.
Wow.
Well, if you keep walking into the same situation where you're going to be wandering around in bare feet on a cement floor.
Yeah,
just
no.
Do that.
You really want your, I just am not that organized to have
Yeah.
shoes for specific things.
Purpose.
Okay.
Where did that even go? That's not right. That's not good. Where did that go? Oh dear.
Okay.
Here.
So I'm told we've got one more person joining us and then one person online if the person can be found online.
I was looking at this little gadget here.
Microphone.
Uh-huh.
Oh, she's back on. She's a viewer. It's gotta be her. Victoria is frequently late, I have to say. Oops. Hi, Christina.
Hi, I can see you.
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to fix this now. The event's about to start. I sent messages 20 minutes ago saying that if we want you on air, we need to actually go back to the original instructions. But so you'll get to watch, which is great. And maybe during lunch we can fix it so that you're on air.
Okay. I mean, that's actually better for me because I've got my little boy here. Okay, so I'll take him with you at lunchtime then.
Okay, talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The issue with Google Hangouts is that Google Hangouts on Air is that there's a very specific way to get to invite someone in and have them come in and be interactive like Zoom, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
People always go online and say, oh, I got this. And then they do it the intuitive way, the way that looks obvious, and then they always end up in just only able to observe. And I send people very specific instructions and I say, I promise you, if you don't read it and do it this way, you will end up not being able to participate, because it happens every single time. But people go, oh, I can figure this out, I got it. And then here we are, I can't troubleshoot it now. So I'll have to adjust one of the exercises so she can participate.
I have a paycheck that comes from a company that's going more and more with the idea of, we'll just do things.
Yeah.
Yesterday, there was a department meeting of a really major change coming up, but instead of handing us paperwork and saying, hi, read through this and we'll read through it together and so forth, the department staged a sort of a 1/5 ring circus where the high point was handing out shiny ducks.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, and the design error is Google's. The obvious way to join should get you to the Google On Air.
Mhm.
It shouldn't, the obvious way to join should not send you to the merely viewing. It's a design flaw, which I've got to figure out how to fix it someday. And here comes Victoria, our last person. And she's also having, yeah, come on. Why is everyone having trouble with that sign?
Because it's
Why
not,
is it you
it
can go
sends
out
you
somewhere
off.
else and turn right?
Yeah, like I was gonna go around the building, because it tells you to go around the building. I didn't feel it.
There was a sign on the door saying, come here. My reaction to the door was, is the door
It
unlocked?
looks like it's a sign you want on the other front door and it's telling, but we're reading it the other way.
Well, it doesn't really matter, we're all here now, but. Oh. That is unuseful. I will instruct them about that. That works if the sign is somewhere else.
Yeah,
Okay.
but when it's here, I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
It's terrible. It's all very pretty and blends in, which means it doesn't work as a sign.
Yes.
Whenever I'm in the back room, people cannot find me. Because there is signage. People will swear there's no sign to find this place. No, there is. It's just too pretty and it blends
You
in.
don't see
Hi,
it.
Victoria.
Hi Leslie, how are you?
Grab a name tag if you would, please,
Okay.
and then we'll get started, because we're all here now.
I was looking at the flyers in there and going, my, such nice choices of fonts and everything else. What about the content?
The content's actually okay too, but for me, signs ought to like pop, If you're driving and the signs blend into the trees. So Victoria, Susanna, Sol, and everyone can just wave. She can't talk back, but we've got Christine over here, so just wave.
Hi Christine.
She's in the UK.
Really?
Yeah.
Groovy. I've got
Groovy.
family there.
She's not gonna be able to talk to us. We're not gonna hear her. But she's gonna, so watch what you say. So hi, you all know me. I'm Leslie Nips. I just want to set some kind of a foundation for what we're going to do today. Thanks so much for coming, by the way. So was it about 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago, maybe. I had my nice little friendly healing practice. Modest, but solid. I mean, it was a nice little business. I could pay my bills. I'd been working at it about 5 years. I was doing okay. And I was helping being a training assistant at a local NLP training school. And people started coming to me and saying, how do you do this? And I said, well, that's not really easy to summarize. And I really don't want to start having lunches individually with lots of different people. So we set up just a 3-hour workshop, and 40 people came, which was more people than had ever come to any of my healing events ever. It was fun. and people got a lot out of it, and I realized I'd figured out some stuff around not just the nuts and bolts. The nuts and bolts are all learnable. You can get books about the nuts and bolts. But something about how alternative practitioners and coaches trip them up in very specific ways unique to us. And so it makes a lot of the business stuff that's out there not irrelevant, but it often sends us down cul-de-sacs. I started doing more and more of this, and this is how we ended up here. There's a couple of things I want to say off the bat, is that today we're up to trying to share a framework. Obviously, I can't give everything anyone would need to know to get going or to take a next level, but I do want you to be able to leave with a coherent framework that will work better for you. I want us to have fun. I want something that's valuable. I want like go, oh wow, I didn't know that, or that was a piece I didn't have. And for anyone who's feeling stuck or has a sense of I want this, but I can't even imagine having it, or I have a little thing, but I can't imagine having a thing that actually supports me, or whatever it is. I just want to tell you, and this, I make people laugh, but it's actually true. If I can do it, anybody can. Honestly. A more hapless beginning in business one could not find, I promise you. So I want that to be actually encouraging to you. Oh, if Leslie did it, I guess I could do it. We're gonna have a few things structurally. Bathrooms are out the sidewalk and in the main building. There is a sink in the back. There's also a microwave if that's something you need. There are cups. We're gonna have a lunch break approximately 12:45 to 2 o'clock-ish. Figure 1 in an hour is 1 hour and 15 minutes is a good compromise between too short and too long.
Right.
Plenty of places around here if you need to know a place to go to. What we're going to do is a cycle of, this is going to be a little bit more informationally heavy than some of the workshops I tend to give, but we are going to be doing exercises as well. So we're going to be cycling in and out of exercises and talks, and then some discussions and sharing. Please don't be formal, ask questions as we go along, and ask for what you need. If you're like, I need to go to the bathroom now, then by all means go off and do that. My plan at this point is not to have a break until we break for lunch, which is, well, no, we should probably have a little break in there somewhere. I'll figure out a place to put a little break in there.
When we all synchronously need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, please do it at the same time. Is that like women getting into cycle with each other?
Yeah.
How are people? You're clearly like on the warm side because you're in the t-shirt. You've still got the jacket on. You're right next to the heater. I'm wondering if I turned on the heater for the second, whether you two would like to switch spots, because he's going to get baked and it's going to take a while to get to you.
Yeah,
But let me turn it on for just a few minutes so we can get the temperature up in the room.
What is your name again?
So,
Because that is the hot spot over there.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go around, and I don't know everybody's business situations here in the room, so but I'm going to guess that we've got a range from people who want to start a business but haven't even really moved into any action about that, to people who maybe have been working at it for a while, and people even in that context who have different levels that they're at. So I'm just going to assume that during the course of the day, when I talk about your business, even if I talk about it in the present tense, for those of you who haven't started yet, I believe that this thing you want is a thing that exists now, even if you don't actually have a business model or an income or a website, or you haven't done anything with it yet. So I want us to go around and please share your name. And my apologies again, we're not going to hear from Christina in this regard. Please share your name, and if you have an elevator pitch and you know what that is, please dump it right now. Just from the heart, say a little bit about your business or what you want for your business. Please be messy about it. And then one thing that's really not working or you'd like to have working better in your business or in whatever your direction is around your business. So I'm just going to move Christina so she can see y'all, and someone dive in.
Okay. My name is Saul. Currently, I'm collecting a paycheck from a nonprofit where I do really good work at it, and because I keep getting ongoing feedback from clients and everybody else. The company is having issues. My department is going to hell in a handbasket. I'm trying to find my way out, but also at the same time, my distinct interest and more study when I can get to it and so on is doing basically animated filmmaking, where there's stuff where you can take video game software, just use it. Nobody's using it. I'm looking at the possibilities going, oh wow, this could be done. Recently had a meeting with a friend of mine who's an office manager. He's trying to change jobs. Ran it by him. His reaction was, oh wow, this could be done. And now I have to figure out how to get things off the ground.
Excellent. And so that's the thing that that is stuck, or it's like, how do I, yeah.
I'm horrible with
Yeah.
job hunting, and basically at this point I'm doing a round of job hunting just from the fiascos of the paycheck.
Okay.
And looking at the competition, and my friend, the office manager's reaction was, oh crap, in this economy, oh crap, everybody lies on your resumes, that's your competition. You're only gonna find somebody who pulls you into a project. So I'm trying to see how to unstick things, loosen things up, find openings, yeah.
Can we ask questions?
In a moment. So you're interested in starting some, for us who are amateurs, some kind of an animation business?
Something in that framework, yeah.
Yeah,
We're joining with an existing production company and
and
I'm
providing
bringing in-
services.
Yeah,
got it, okay. So just to let you know, this is mostly geared towards alternative practitioners and coaches. I don't know anything about how to do that.
not
I don't have a clue, other than general best practices. But that's quite a different business than a services-oriented business. But so much of what we're talking about is nonetheless going to be very applicable.
In
Yeah.
many instances, I keep
Yeah.
coming out of left field and coming up with the answer. Just using these tools is itself coming very alternative, which is when you made
Yeah.
the announcement this last weekend. I was, oh, hello.
Yeah, he was my last minute sign up. He was at the Constellations last week. So you had a question? Did
No,
I
I
answer
wasn't,
it?
I just wasn't clear whether you were stuck because you were looking for another paycheck from another company or you were trying to start something in animation. So I was just.
Yeah, yes to both.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm trying to do the change. The tools I'm working with are stuff that have recently been developed. Nobody's working with them.
okay.
And so there's a lot of just,
There's a market opportunity.
Yeah.
In a simple sense. Yeah. Yeah, you're seeing a need that hasn't been filled yet. Yeah.
Cool.
Which is, very briefly, a really interesting guy by the name of George Kao. I've got a few go-to business coaches I really, really like, and George Kao is one of them. And he talks about two different kinds of business models. This is not part of my lecture, but this is not unuseful for everybody here. And he talks about the entrepreneur model versus the artist model.
Oh, interesting.
And I really like him. He's got a nice little, another thing about him, his business model is he basically gives all of his material away for free. And he lives on doing intensive, very excellent one-on-one coaching. So his model is to basically give all his stuff away for free. So you can go to his website and get lots of really cool stuff, including a slideshow on this material. Usually I give this lecture because the average person in my groups is in the artist type. But you just described the entrepreneurial model.
Albeit, in my case, I'm interested in the particular tools because it will let me make any movie whatsoever for about a production budget of $0.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
So there's an artist subtext, but, and let's not take these words literally. He's speaking metaphorically here. But the artist basically starts with their modality or their art. I like yogic dance. I like NLP. I like family constellations. I like, that's what I enjoy doing. I want to make a living doing this. Okay, where's the need for me to apply it? Okay. The other one is the entrepreneurial. And this one is you start with the need in the market. Okay, so I'll give you a perfect example of a need in the market, which still exists. In my former life as a clergy person, no one can make a good clergywoman shirt. There are companies out there and they're crap. They're either made out of crappy material, or if they make the fabric out of paisley, they figure they have covered the needs that women have. They're not shaped for women. They're not, so it's a need. So if you were remotely in the world of providing apparel, then this is something you can meet. What he says is it's not right or wrong because eventually these two merge, right? At a certain level of development, there isn't much of a difference. But at the beginning there is, and he says, my apologies, but the artist path is slower. You just have to accept that this is a slower path, right? And then we get into Tad Hargraves, who I really, really love, Marketing for Hippies, and all of his beautiful work on niching spirals. How to come to a niche through spiraling rather than by. Anyway, we're not going to go there today. These are two of my very favorites. I'll just give you my third favorite while we're at it. These are the only people I can really recommend. Business. Mark Silver. He's my business coach. These are Sufis. He's a hippie. He's more mainstream, but wonderful. Anyway, so you're describing a need, right? You can see there's actually a need out there that's not going to be met by anybody else. Yeah. Whereas we start out with, I like to do blah, blah, blah. Let's see if I can make money doing it, right? And I'm a perfect example of this because I spent 5 years being kind of general practice. And then this niche, this business niche kind of took me by the throat. It just really kind of took me. So, okay. So, and by the way, this is the way I'm going to work today. I'm going to listen to you, I'm going to interact with you, and then I'm going to find information that seems useful to you. Let's have someone else do their introduction.
You can go ahead. Okay. So my name's Victoria, and I met Leslie. I worked out
Ages
about
ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
I think I worked with you until 2011. I worked out, so it's more than 5 years ago. And then I come to occasional constellations, and somewhat worrying that I'm still concerned with some of the same things, but actually in a very different place. So quite by chance in 2012, I've got a master's in organizational psychology, and I have a coaching certification. And I gave a friend a free session at the end of which she went, wow. And I'd been unemployed for a year, wow. So he introduced me to someone that day, and by that afternoon I had 2 pieces of work doing some training. And that, because of my evaluations, really took off. So I've been doing training mainly in the public sector, state of California, cities, counties, places where morale's not super high, doing a lot of workshops on effective communication, respectful environment, soft skill stuff. And out of that, I started being asked to occasionally help with pretty serious conflict situations in hospitals. And some teams where there was some pretty serious distress. And I just found, wow, this is what I can
grab us, yeah.
And I would be in the middle of a session and it was such an extraordinary feeling. Wow, I love what I'm doing right now. And I seem to be quite effective. So that has carried on now for 2.5 years. And I've got to a point where I've been earning consistently so much. But that's not enough to live on. I've been supported by alimony as well. And really in the last year, it's become clear to me, I don't want to be living on alimony. I want to be self-supporting, and that the work I do is important. And although it's in organizations, it's very heart-based. So there's a weirdness. I go into businesses where they're not used to talking about emotions at all. And that's what we're talking about. And pretty serious emotions often. So I'm here because I just feel like I keep coming up against my own glass ceiling, and I've no idea what that is. I can't seem to, and also, and here's the truth, so far I haven't done a lick of marketing. So I've got
that could contribute to a ceiling.
Yes, but I've got to say a third of what I need to be earning, and now it's time for me to start owning, and there's my stuckness. So that's why I'm here.
Awesome. Woohoo. That's a hugely different place.
Isn't it?
It's a spectacular.
Thank you.
It's not even the same universe.
I'm glad you think that. Thank you.
You guys still know me in 4 years. I'll be able to say things like that to you. I've got to get a glass of water. Excuse me.
Yes, good.
Just got a frog in my throat. So Susanna, tell us about yourself.
I will. I thought
What's
I
up?
will wait for you.
Yeah.
So I'm in a somewhat interesting point in my life. I am partnered with this fellow for 30-some years. We raised a child that's now 27. There were hurdles along the way in terms of so many things, including healthcare and just things that would keep our family on the right side of the tracks, and sending. My husband went to school and got a master's. My son went to school and finished his. And so finally I got, about 1.5 years ago, it was quite clear that it was my turn to do something different with my life other than making sure that things were provided for my family. And I'm really glad I did what I did. Knowing what I know today, I think I would have kept myself and my wishes and desires a little more on the front page. But what I did was good, and it needed to be done at the time. So the last 1.5 years has been mainly about, like, what does Susanna want to do with the rest of her life or after she grows up? Meantime, I've worked with in reevaluation co-counseling. I'm a teacher through them for over 17 years. I have a nice large community. I learned about systemic constellations. I can see myself as a good leader in either one of those organizations, and learning and doing this thing. I'm an artist. I love painting and creating things with my hands. But I stopped working last January. I just sent in an email saying, I'm done with my job. I was there for about 11 years. And since then, I've just mainly been taking care of my health that had kind of took a dive. And I feel like whatever it is that I'm going to do, I'm going to be good at it because that's how things have happened in my life. But I'm kind of sitting not quite sure where that is. The direction is what I'm like, what do I want to, what fulfills my heart more than anything else? Just because there are so many things I like.
So this is still pretty open.
So I'm in no rush. I feel like this is the only time in my life where I can slow down and do this, not because I have the money, not because I have the research, just because I'm doing it. I have no business not working right now, but I'm just not going to work, and things will have to figure out.
Go for it, baby.
Okay, awesome. Group in really different places, and I assume Christina is in another kind of different place from the rest of us as well. Okay, so we're going to shift gears here, and we're going to do our first exercise. Some of you may have experienced this in another context if you've been in on my calls, at all my monthly calls, or in other workshops. But this is something that is like the bedrock of what I do with my clients in this work. Because we can get so lost in the very important but more conscious details of the business or thinking about having a business that we don't get into what's actually really here, what's actually really going on. In constellation work, what that tool allows us to do is really to shift into the unconscious of the system. Yeah. So instead of saying I'm procrastinating about my website, that's the conscious experience. In constellations, we may discover that there's something in particular I'm very frightened of, and it's not the website, right? Okay, so it's the unconscious of the system. That's what we're going to do. It's a very simple and beautiful little exercise. And Susanna, I'm going to ask you to help me demo this for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina, I'm going to give you a slightly different way to do this, but come stand across from me. And I want us just to be in the view for her to see us. So, yeah, just a little closer. Okay, so what I'm going to do here for everybody, Susanna's going to be Susanna in this constellation, and I'm going to be the heart of Susanna's business. Okay? So, I'm only going to do a couple of moments of it, just so you can kind of see. The thing to remember about constellations, and I know you all know this, is that constellations are rarely literal. This is really important. I remember years ago in my early course, and when I was 21, Carl Jung, my professor, saying, don't literalize the images. Allow the images to be rich in metaphor and symbol. The reason why I say this is as soon as people do this, people are like, oh, why is my business frightened? And is it frightened of me? And so just try and hang out in the space and the meaning of the constellation and be like, oh, that's really interesting. I wonder. Okay, so we're just going to do this for a moment, just to role model it. So just tap on my shoulder and say, you are the heart of my business.
You are the heart of my business.
The other thing to remember, this is me facilitating, is that she's now representing Susanna.
Right.
So she's also a representative. So she should be tuning into what her experience is. She may suddenly get strangely afraid or happy or whatever, right? So what I want to say is I like you, but I don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
I like you a great deal, but I've never met you before.
That's so intuitive. That is just so intuitive. Yeah.
So what's your experience in this representation across from this one?
I just had a lot of heat out of the palm of my hands. It was just very active. And just a lot of energy throughout my body.
In your experience of this one is what? Anything?
Of what you just said?
No, you're just generally,
Okay.
like, what's your impression of this one?
I wasn't quite there because I was here.
Yeah,
so, well, that's, okay, that's good information, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were paying more attention to yourself than to the person who's like 2 feet away from you. You know? Okay, so we're gonna pause there, we're gonna continue. Let's pause there, go ahead and sit down. I'm gonna have you two paired up.
Okay.
And again, this works even if you don't have one yet, right? I'm gonna give Christina an alternative, but I'm gonna teach this to all of you because this is super useful for all of you. So Christina, on one card, you're gonna write your name, slip of paper, sticky, something. On another slip of paper, you're gonna write the heart of my business. And then just place them like you just saw me and Susanna. There they are, the 2 cards on the ground. And you'll just see my feet. First I'll step into Christina, or if I were doing it for myself, it would be Leslie, and then step over here. So just do it that way. And you'll have an experience of the other representation. You will. So I'm gonna leave you time, Christina, to do that on your own. We're gonna have about 15 minutes for this, because what you'll do is you'll do it for one person, and then you'll end the constellation, and then you'll do it for the other person. Okay? In about 5 minutes. This is not about, if you've done a lot of constellations, this is not about resolutions, it's not about fixing anything. This is information. This is about State of the Union. Okay? So you guys can find some corner.
Okay.
It's a nice thing about this place, you can find lots of space. And you and I will continue again in front of the video camera so that I have a record of one of them.
We're taking off just for a quick second to visit the bathroom. before-
Okay. You need to do that too?
I can't tell.
Wait,
I should,
yeah.
you know.
Christina, everyone's taking a pee break, go and take a pee break. I might as well, I don't know why, I already went recently, but.
It's the opportunity.
refreshing. The room is nice and warm now, so
It's lovely. Coming in
I
here
turned off the
felt
heat.
good. They all went, did they?
If you get chilly again, just let me know.
I will, thank you. I met some of your pupils recently.
I'm sorry?
I think I want to call them some of your pupils recently who've been through your class. I've been going to some constellation stuff around organizational constellation with Ellen.
Yeah,
There was a young guy, I think a masseurs,
Joshua,
really impressive.
yeah. He's a good guy.
Anyway, he spoke very highly of the work with you.
Yeah, it's been nice work that we've been doing. It really has been. It's been cool. And nice of him to say so.
Okay. You want to go first?
Sure.
And by the way, by tap, I just meant touch lightly.
Yeah.
Just on the shoulder. I wasn't very clear about that one. So we can pick up where we left off.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say this was a little close. I'm just gonna step back a little bit. I'm not gonna worry about that. I'm not gonna submit the constellation to. And I don't like being back to the, can we just shift this so that I have room? Yeah, watch out for the mic. I don't know why I need so much room. I don't have enough room.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly-
Stuff linking out and growing out and like vines growing out and linking up with other things and so forth.
An anxiety or anything. It's not dealing with a problem. It's just I need more space.
That's what's coming to mind. And you?
I need more
I was
space.
feeling very frightened and very alone.
Being up against the wall is no good.
Um,
And the funny thing is, no matter what I did, I kept myself feeling like I was up against a wall.
And.
Even now, this is better, but now I'm actually love all the metaphors. Now I'm
I'm not
cornered.
really sure. Yeah.
But I need space around me. What's your experience?
Yeah,
Of you,
Just in general,
Just in general?
of me, of yourself,
Yeah.
of the constellation.
I just, I'm watching what you're saying and what you're doing, and it just rings so true to my experience.
Way more calming.
And
no,
the word setup kept coming up in my mind, like what a setup
Mm,
for myself and my
I
heart,
could see
for my
like,
relationship
there's a
to
lot
my
of
heart.
distractions going on.
right, I don't feel safe in your hands.
And how are you feeling about where you are? And the business being over here?
And
Yeah.
How's that feel?
since maybe,
I can't
yeah, maybe
tell. I have
that's your
Very strong
satisfaction.
tingling up and down my arms. That seems to be the most active.
Right,
Um,
right.
And I can't take my eyes off of you, there's just something I'm kind of mesmerized,
Arguably.
but it's not like I'm in deep understanding or
Yeah.
In umpteen directions at once.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I've been in many hard business constellations where they've been distracted. And I haven't been. I've pretty much had my attention on you.
On the innovation and development.
Over here, you feel a little
Just
passive.
getting a framework created to do stuff.
Maybe passive isn't the right word. Stuck. You seem a little like
I'm wondering how,
sat there.
I'm hearing it as to
Mhm.
do, I'm hearing like it might be a duty. I'm wondering how much you care about me.
Okay.
I'd like a little bit more
I was hearing
flexibility.
myself as a task, that someone else was doing some of the other tasks, then you would come to me as a task, but I'm wanting to know.
The word
if you really
certainty
care.
came up, but with
Okay.
uncertainty.
What you know,
Yeah.
would you love?
Yeah, I don't track that over here. To me, it feels like stuck. Yeah.
What do you look
Like the only thing that can move in the system feels like me.
Star for you through all the chaos that's
Doesn't feel like you can move. And that gets frustrating
See
after a while.
different possibilities on that.
So does that feel useful?
Oh, very.
Okay, so we'll break it there.
Yeah.
So another minute or two and break the first one. It's mostly just about information gathering, remember?
Yeah, that feels very, very good.
And then we'll do with me.
Okay, yeah.
Just keep bouncing back and forth, and that basically would be the core.
And I'll give you a chance to write at the end. Let's change positions just to anchor it a little bit.
This is core focus. Question is just getting to it from the scattered attention I've got.
Yeah, that still feels like it's not addressing the whole of who I am as the heart.
Okay.
I'm not sure you've got my back.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Your turn.
Take it off.
The image that came up
Thank you for
is
giving me the
the,
privilege of
the
being I just shake it out. I understand it's very important to get this.
I'm not religious.
Yes.
Well, interesting. Are you the ball of wool or
Okay.
are you the sweater that gets made?
No, I'm the model world and
Okay.
things are being made, but I'm not the leader.
You are the heart of my business.
And your experience with me is what, if anything?
Friendly territory.
Very twitchy.
It's interesting, when you closed your eyes, I've been noticing for years, I've been doing these for years, that I am highly sensitive to any signs that something's wrong, like oversensitive to it, like a little too anticipatory of it. And so you close your eyes and my first thought is, and then I went, no, trust, just trust your business, just close its eyes for a
Almost like
second.
about the person.
Just trust that.
Lots of
Say
twitchy.
it's okay. But I could, and
Not so
the
much
part
getting
that was
angry,
going,
just
open your
just
eyes, open your
let's
eyes.
try and be still.
I just kind of went, okay to that part. I just went, it's okay, I understand, sometimes it's scary.
Mm.
No particular feelings aside from those.
And then when you opened your eyes and talk, it was very obvious it was fine.
Not unstable, but just, or not so much becoming unstable, it's just
So often these constellations reveal to me my own doubt.
me, myself, my reaction was kind of hold still, and I'm watching, yank, just sort of getting twitchy.
What is your activity?
Don't know.
Is it going from the inside, from the outside? or
Inside.
from the inside?
Inside.
How's that?
Is it a nervousness?
Not,
Feels like I can do this, and I feel,
the
the,
skull is starting to twinge. It's not a headache, it's basically the skull. Still getting
Is that okay?
twitches going on.
yeah.
Some
It's
sort
like,
of. some
this is for me is like knowing we're connected
What?
and close and working together, but our focus isn't just on each other. It's on the work or the thing or the clients or the
Mhm.
whatever it
I've
is.
seen movies or something of the
What
sort.
I noticed
basically
in
somebody
having
sort of
changed this
phasing in
position
multiple directions
is that,
at the same time, so we're sort
my
of
rib
that
cage
sort of
has
like-
a certain tension.
And what's your experience of that?
That this is good, but there is tension where the
Yeah.
breathing occurs.
If you put down your arm and just let
Mhm.
me touch you,
Mhm.
do you want
When I lean
I was
back.
watching a
Oh,
body
interesting.
sort of balloon in all directions. What are
I'm
you?
not sure that
No,
that's,
it's not.
I mean, I understand that might work for you, and
Yeah.
but it's useful for me to notice that,
I'm ready for my business.
Yeah,
I'm standing here, what's going on?
I don't know if I have an answer of that one. All I'm getting is this one sort of.
No, that it
image.
says
At
this
this
is
point, I'm
like
getting a
a
visual
whole-
image of, say, a readout of the body.
so I can support it.
I don't know what it
Okay, that
means
sounds
or what
good
it
enough.
ties into.
What was your sense in
Yeah, thank you. Good. So start to bring that to a close.
Not very much of anything, just the overall company profit should be all.
And that's the heart.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not an emotion.
Not really, no.
It's twitching.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, it's so esoteric, I'll have to just allow it.
We will check in again at the end with different representatives.
Okay,
People do have different styles of representing. I've noticed more people, some people who are very, like, they get very enigmatic information, and others who seem to get more concrete information. It's interesting. So, and yes, it's just like, okay, we'll check in again at the end though. Because part of what I like to do is check in and see if anything shifted or changed after 6 or 7 hours together.
right, right.
Yes.
Okay, so any very brief, but shares about that?
It's so simple and so informative. The seem rich, simple and rich.
Yeah, I learnt a lot. Actually, in the sense that I'm not sure that there is a heart of the business, which is interesting. In that I'm not sure the heart understands itself as one heart.
Interesting. Your business is having an identity crisis.
Yes.
Yeah, she was able to give me a reaction of basically fear, I'm uncertain, or uncertainty and so forth, so on. My reaction of her was not so much emotional, just physically twitching in all over the place. What I
Right.
finally came up with was as almost like a visual imagery of somebody just moving in and out of phase. And you can't see a single body, but you're just seeing this blur of multiple bodies or multiple persons in one place.
Okay, we'll go for it. Yeah.
I just want to say that my experience wasn't so much fear as I suppose it was fear, but it was concern for my well-being.
Okay.
So the sense that there was a very clear idea of what the heart of your business is, but it was a sense that it's almost like prostitution. Are you the person to look after this heart, or should they? Which is interesting, since you'd said at the beginning, here's a need that no one's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't look after it, will someone else grab it? Which
Yeah.
is interesting, right?
Yeah. And a few words about yourself. And by the way, no one needs to share anything at any given time.
No, the brain just went in 6 directions at once. Very good, very interesting. Definitely fits in with a good deal of the things I've got going on as far as trying to get locked into getting stuff done.
Okay.
And as I'm having to be focus on where the paycheck's coming from, but also trying to get other things done, trying to get research done, all at the same time, and continually having to juggle.
And even though you are other employed at this point, you just described self-employment. Self-employment, you're always moving from marketing to providing a service to developing content to talking to the guy you're renting the workshop space from to answering emails. That's the life of being self-employed. There's never one point where you get self-employed and you're just kind of just doing one thing. It might get streamlined after a while, but overall, can you imagine the usefulness of doing that every once in a while?
Oh, totally.
Yeah. It really does just kind of like take you out of the, should I do niche A or B, and into the system a little bit, and the feeling, like it's what you do with your clients, I'm sure. Let's talk about the emotions now, right? So the other thing I didn't do, which is really, really important, is I'm a big fan of this, it's very important, attributing. My work with the Heart of Business, they have a Heart of Business practice that's based in Sufi practice. They are Sufis. And it's mostly about fourth chakra stuff. It's about tuning in to the divine. I've taken that basic platform and put it in a constellation format. So I'm a big fan of attributing. So I want to make sure I attribute to that. Both the languaging around Heart of Business and the basic idea of getting into relationship with the heart of your business. Okay, so I'm going to shift into some more information. First, just kind of some overall stuff, and then some. Then I'm going to get really nitty-gritty. There are things that I know, and I mentioned this before, but I'm going to go into more detail about it now. There's some things I know about alternative practitioners and coaches, okay? Or what other people call them, heart-based practitioners. Other people, there's conscious practitioners. I'm not super fond of that language. Not that it can't be descriptive when it's really true, but I find the language of, I'm a conscious, blah, 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 is
Somewhat patronizing.
It's so often not true. The first time I really ran into it was meeting somebody who was like putting down her family, and she was conscious and her family was not. And I'm like, I really prefer to have Thanksgiving dinner with them right now. And I think all she meant was that they were conventional. But they maybe they were horrible people. But the way she was using the language was a way to create an us and them. They shouldn't be part of becoming more conscious. Ideally. So, but conscious business is often used. Someone is starting to use the language of the awakened business. I think that's really silly. Because, there's a whole context for awakening and enlightenment that's actually very important. But there's something important about all this, which is what does it mean to try and be heart-based, to be ethical, to be in some kind of alignment with the vision of the world you prefer to live in, rather than, an infinite set of compromises. So the people who have that kind of approach have a few things that are true about them that can often make succeeding challenging, okay? The first one is that, if you wanted to learn, say, about coaching or about constellations, it's often the case that they don't want to and have never learned about business. They didn't go and get an MBA for fun, right? They wouldn't just troll entrepreneurial sites for the fun of it like some other people do, right? So they don't know about it, and they're not necessarily attracted. So the minute they've got to start doing business, they have to overcome. They're like, oh, but I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have to, right? This can be somewhat ancestral, but there can be concerns about business itself is unethical, tainted, filthy lucre, mammon, right? All that stuff. That the only way to sell is by manipulating, right? A lot of these people, because of who they are, may have what I call personal ecology, unconscious beliefs, etc., financial success. And that's a topic I'm going to go into a little bit more later on down the road. But having enough money to live on, asking people for money, that kind of stuff they may have unconscious limiting beliefs and issues around. The business growth programs that are out there and are often promoted to people like us are often not a good fit for us. So what I find is a lot of people are recovering from previous business programs that claim to be heart-centered but ended up just being this stuff. And then the problem that arises, this happened to me very intensely, I'm going to talk a bit more about this, is that they try and do the things they're told, they can't make it work, they don't succeed, and then the question comes up, what is wrong with my personal success mindset? It becomes another change work issue. But it may not be about personal ecology, it may be about misalignment.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to get into that in a lot more depth in a moment.
Yeah, I was going to say, my experience also is feeling tremendous guilt that there's something wrong with me, rather than thinking, maybe that program's flawed.
Or
I
not,
take on
or
too much
put it
responsibility.
this way, not a good fit for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because most of the stuff that I participated in that was not a good fit for me was a good fit for someone,
Somebody, true.
right?
Yeah.
The flaw, if there was one, was claiming it was universal, when it was not.
Okay.
Okay.
In the situation I'm dealing with, there's 3 or 4 of us in the department who keep looking at the new regime of what we're going to do, and we're going, we also work elsewhere in other projects, and what you're doing isn't working and isn't going to work. Why are you doing this to us?
Well, and then I really want to underline, this is a little different from that. It really is the case that there's just some ways of doing business that are not a good fit for heart-based folk.
Right.
It can be just fine if you're, a widget maker in Silicon Valley and you want to get your latest cool app out, right? But it may not. And the thing about business that's really important to remember is that there's always another way.
Right.
Anyone says you need to get a landing page and an opt-in page. It's landing pages and opt-in pages are awesome. I use them myself. But that's not the same as saying they're necessary. Yeah? Okay. So what we need to do is find a way so this is the problem. This is very unique to people who are, again, alternative practitioners and coaches. These are the kinds of stumbles they have along the way. So they need approaches that are somewhat unique to them. I mean, I recommend to everybody to go to your Chamber of Commerce free or low-cost classes on building a business. But because they have good information, especially about local business requirements and stuff like that you ought to know about. But generally speaking, there's going to be a vibe there that's going to make you feel like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't. No, it's not that you can't do it. It's what's called lack of rapport. These people are not like us. And that's not a bad thing, The French say, vive la différence, right? Diversity is good, but that sort of Chamber of Commerce way to doing business isn't necessarily going to be a great fit, okay? But having said that, I really want you to become kind of Catholic in your take and be willing to learn from anybody about business,
Exactly.
right? Okay, so having said all that, whoops, and Christina could not see those notes. I want to say a little bit more about where I ended up. And the reason why I tell this story is not because, let's all hear Leslie's story, but because it's through having been through this process that I've arrived at a lot of the stuff that I teach. So many of you know, prior life as a minister, did that for 12 years, burnt out on that. Had a transitional period, continued to work for nonprofits of one sort or another. And then I stumbled into NLP and family constellations, which is kind of a classic, alternative practitioner and coaches kind of set of modalities. And so I started creating a business truly from like total ignorance. I've worked in nonprofits my whole life. And I joined my first coaching program. It was a great program. And I remember sitting there at the very beginning and saying, I really want this, but I'm really certain I'm not going to succeed. And I was absolutely certain that I could not. Like, that was what grown-ups do or something like that, right? And yet I kept doing it. Lesson number one, just because you know you can't do it is not a good reason to not do it. It may be a good reason to not do it. I have met people who've been working for years to build their businesses, and then they get the job of their dreams and they went, oh, that wasn't something I actually wanted. Yeah. So discovering that being self-employed is not what you want, it's not a failure. That's fine. Yeah. But just because you're pretty sure you can't do this is not in and of itself reason to not try. My next lesson was a few months in when she said it's time to make your websites. And I remember thinking I'll never have a website. Okay, I'll work on that, but don't like leprechauns and unicorns make websites. That's how reality-based it seemed to me. A few months later, I had a website. It was very difficult for me. Every bit of ecology came up, but I had a website. And at that moment I learned, you know what? I can learn stuff I think I can't learn. That was a huge kind of reframe for me. And then bit by bit it grew steadily. Very slow process. My process was being full-time self-employed and then part-time self-employed and then being ready to go solo. Other people, they dive in. I preferred the financial security. I preferred not having to worry about how I was going to pay. It meant that I worked very hard for a few years, but I had my eyes on the prize on self-employment. Then, as I sort of referred here, I got involved in some business growth programs that had a lot of wonderful qualities as part of it, but fundamentally was very out of alignment with who I was. And it took me a long time to figure out that that's what was going on. I spent a long time going, what's wrong with my success mindset? There's something wrong with me. I can't, initiate these things that they're telling me to do. And then my breakthrough was I found the Heart of Business people who have a different framework. And I finally realized, oh my gosh, those things are not in alignment with my values. That's why they're not working. Now, one could look at that as, well, what a waste of time and money. And at a certain level it was. But I'm actually really, really grateful for that experience. As expensive as it was very expensive because there are, maybe 3 or 4 times in our lives where it's necessary to get pulled massively off our paths in order to notice what our proper path is. I was kind of doing this in my life, and until I did this become clear. I needed the contrast to figure it out. It's not the nicest way to learn. It's not the way you want to be learning every day. But I'd say 3 or 4 times in an average lifetime, that is the way we learn something. If we're lucky, maybe only twice we do it that way. And I'm genuinely grateful for it because what I realized when I came back here was that I wanted a business that was really successful and it was ethical. It was really in alignment with my personal values. And the Heart of Business people convinced me it was possible. Thank God for those guys. Went full-time self-employed about 2.5 years ago. My business grows a bit each year. I'm definitely supporting myself. I would like to get it to a place with a bit more abundance and a bit more capacity to save, but I'm in a good place. And I have the confidence that I'm going to be okay. Even when I have low months, by the way, self-employment means you have low months and high months. It's not steady. There can be a little like, but mostly I know I'm going to be okay. My business showed up. My business is going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And that's really what I want for you. It's not a sense of arrival. I've got it. I'm here. It's a sense of good enough, of resiliency and trust. And that I can make enough money that feels good, and have my stuff. This is the deal, right? Because I still got my stuff. I definitely still have my stuff. But you can make money and have stuff. It really is possible. And feel kind of good about yourself. There are a few other presuppositions I just want to share with you. Success in business involves trying things in a spirit of learning. So generally speaking, when I put out pieces of marketing, when I'm all done, it's gone live, I've lived with it for a little while, I look at it and I see the parts I don't like, that aren't quite in alignment or don't work very well. Instead of, going, gosh, I failed again, it's, oh, okay, so I'll do that different next time. Or I offer a service that there are no takers on or not enough takers on. Oh, okay, that's a good learning. I'll do that different next time. This is the spirit we want. In NLP, that's called feedback, not failure. So those are some of the presuppositions I work with. And I work over and over and over again with clients to be in self-rapport as they're growing and learning and figuring out how to be okay with having business. Okay? Yeah. Like there is not some place to get to where you will finally feel okay about yourself. Okayness is here now. It is available here right now. Yeah. I remember very clearly the moment where I used to worry so much about money. Oh my God, sleepless nights. I used to worry about it so much. Something shifted inside of me and I stopped worrying about money and the externals had not changed. This is a really important thing to notice. Like you're not going to finally stop worrying about money when you make X amount of dollars, right? If you've got a worry pattern, believe me, you can worry while making $1 million. There are plenty of people in the world who are doing it. And there are people who are really okay in the world making 20,000, right? So.
Can I share an image I had about that recently?
Sure.
Because I relate to the sleepless nights big time. And I have a group of friends who support me on my journey and what have you. And I was in a particularly heavy place of fear, to such an extent that I'd stopped breathing slightly a couple of weeks ago. And I was really feeling very dizzy. But I had 2 pieces of work to do. I had to go down to work in a prison, and then I had to go on and work in a corporate place down in Silicon Valley. And I was driving there, and I was so dizzy in the first job that I had to sort of stand with my legs like that because I was scared I'd fall over. And I got into the car afterwards, and I thought, now do I take myself to Kaiser now? Am I ill? Or, what is this? And I had this realization that if I went to Kaiser, I would relax because I would feel safe, and then I'd breathe and I'd realize there was nothing wrong. So that was my first clue. I was just living in fear.
Yay! Oh boy, wherever that thought came from.
And then I had this next vision of, I need money. And I had this vision just at the middle of a man's torso with his hands there, just handing me wads of cash, okay? So all I could see in the vision was millions of dollars. And my first thought wasn't, oh, phew, it was, well, will that keep coming? And I realized, as you say,
Yeah.
it's not about how much, it was just this huge, overwhelming
Yeah,
fear now, which in that moment I didn't need to be experiencing either.
yeah,
It was just
Yeah.
enormous. And that was
Yeah.
literally about 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
maybe 2 only. It's horrific.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that people try to summarize in the "it's all in the attitude," which I find a very unhelpful way of talking about it. But this is the germ of the wisdom inside of the "it's all about your attitude." What that statement presupposes is you can change your attitude just kind of on manual, especially when fear is running. It's like, so, but having awareness that it is an internally generated experience, it's not about the external. Not only is it sort of true, but it actually is an intervention. You can't feel quite as fearful when you're done thinking that.
Right. No, I mean, I really didn't. I managed to do the rest
Yeah.
of the day quite easily.
Okay, one more summary thing I just want to offer up here before we go into the real nuts and bolts, our main topic before we go off to lunch. So I just want to list what I would call the necessary elements of business growth. Now, this is not a definitive list. I mean, obviously, 10 different people would write this 10 different ways. But this is just the way I like to think of it for now. Business nuts and bolts. Or what I like to call best practices. If you don't know anything about business, you do need to get yourself informed. Sorry, it's important, right? Now, here's the deal. If it's like, I didn't get enough yet, blah. The nice thing about nuts and bolts is there are two things that are really important to remember. Again, and I'll say this over and over again, enough for now. It's just for what your business needs now, whatever it is. So if you're wanting to move into marketing your business, you need to know some good things about marketing. You don't need to know about the definition between microeconomics and macroeconomics and how to do trade policies with China, right? I'm making a joke here, but there is a sense in which, especially when we go off to these weekend huge trainings and there's this huge informational download, there can be a real sense of overwhelm about everything I need to do. You don't need to do everything. It's just what's for now. I remember finding out about doing video marketing and just thinking, oh, that sounds really good, but not now. A year later, not now. A year later, not now. This year was finally the time for me to start doing that. And I felt perfectly okay about the fact that even though it was all the rage, I wasn't doing it. It's just for now. And B, again, as I've mentioned, always another way. So I was having a conversation with a client about her main ways of getting the word out. And these days, a main way to get the word out, what is social marketing, right? I mean, that's social networking. It's very big now, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all that stuff. And we were sort of going through some various things she wanted to do, and then she was onto the social networking thing. And I was listening to her and calibrating, and I said, do you like Facebook? And she says, no. And I'm like, maybe down the road you might tackle social networking. It might be a good strategy for you. But these 3 you've done seem good enough for now. Why don't we put that off? Because it's not coming naturally to you. And she said, really? I said, yeah, why not? Yeah. So there's always another way. And you want to find there. You don't want to be always say, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to do that. But there are usually ways that are more, and fun may be the wrong word, but in alignment with our personality than other ways. I know someone like who is just a social gadfly. So she's like the most amazing networker, literally, and going to network events of anyone I've ever met. And I'm like, bring it on, do it that way. That's a great way to grow your business, right? Other people are just painful introverts. They die at these events. Then don't do it that way. There are other ways, okay? So I just want to name that. So business nuts and bolts, really important. The next big topic, these are the big ones, these two, change work. My apologies, but you do need to be engaging in your own healing work if it's keeping you from moving forward. Best thing if you can get these together, simply because then they can inform each other. Oh, I was trying to set up my website and I got shut down. Oh, what was the experience like? Well, I didn't know how to do it. Oh, you just need to learn more. I got really frightened and I don't know why. Oh, let's look at whether we need some healing here. This is, yeah. And it's often a combination of both, which is useful to know.
Experience.
Yeah. Here's the third one that I'm just going to really underline because I've been running into this with some clients lately. You got to put in the time. And I'm going to come to this topic more fully later on. It does require a commitment. I do have people who spend a lot of money on business growth programs, but they're not sitting down at their computer 3 or 4 days a week to put things into place. They'll do an hour here, an hour there, or they're having a very busy life in other kinds of ways, but a business isn't going to grow itself. And come to that in more detail later on. There's a time when I would really like to be able to only work 2 to 3 days a week on my business. That would be awesome. But right now, it's definitely a 5-day-a-week thing. It's my job. It is my job. It's what I do. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a great job.
Right.
If I really want to, if I'm able to and my business allows me and it's a gorgeous day, I can just go and hike, right? I can get my hair cut in the middle of the day. I can go to, go to a place like REI where I need to shop for hiking boots and it not be a weekend or an evening when the place is mobbed, right? It's great. It's great to be able to sleep in. It's great. To be master of my own world. But it is my job. Yeah. The best way to put this is, I'm going to start finding a way to do business that is in alignment. I'll just put this under self-knowledge. So know thyself. What do I care about? What's important to me? And in practice, in the work that I do with people, and I'm going to do some of this with you today, it involves reframing business. In the sense of finding ways of thinking about business that are ethically and spiritually in alignment with who we are. Now, most of us know what our ethics are. I could have a conversation with anybody in the room, but if I start asking you, how do you want to express that in your business? A lot of us get tongue-tied because we don't think about putting these together, right? So, but business is spiritual practice. Business is an expression of my deepest values, and how to think about business that way as a spiritual, ethical practice. And then the last one, this is kind of basic, but making sure you have support, you're taking care of your wellness, and some kind of work-life balance. I stink at this. I've been massively workaholic the last few years. But it's important, is to keep taking care of ourselves. Okay, so these are the necessary elements. How's everybody doing? We're at 11:22. These have been short little tidbitty things. Now I'm gonna move into a big topic.
Okay.
Everyone ready?
Yep.
Okay. Go back to red, just have some fun. So. This is a strange way to frame this, but basically in business, what do we have? We have whatever it is we're trying to do, and either it goes really, really well. I did the marketing and it happened, or I sat down to do the thinking about the vision and I did that, or I, had the session with a client and it went well. And then we have the other stuff, which are the problems. And I want to talk about the problems for a moment. The problems or difficulties. That arise. Now, this may seem like a very silly thing to begin to have our first long lecture on. But this is, for many of you in the room, this is going to be your major take home, this particular lecture. When I figured this out, everything changed for me. Because think about going to the doctor and you say, I have a fever. Now, people are knowledgeable enough in this room and in the UK to know that there are easily 1,000 things that could be causing a fever. From nothing much to things that could kill you in a few minutes, right? The problem is a fever. Until we know what kind of a problem is, we have no idea how to treat it. And if we treat it the wrong way, we can often make the problem a lot worse. And if we treat it properly, it can often be so not a big deal. And my experience with a lot of people is that diagnosing the problem inaccurately often creates spirals or intense plateaus that actually were not necessary if they had some capacity to understand what kind of a problem it was. So what are the three? There are three kinds of problems according to Leslie Nips. 3 kinds. The first one is I'm going to give the NLP shorthand for this, and then I'm going to explain it. It's called ecology. This is what we in the New Age consciousness crowd tend to call unconscious limiting beliefs and patterns. Okay? So that worry thing you were doing, Victoria.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Probably ecology. Okay?
Right.
Some unconscious limiting belief.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping you're going to rid me of them today.
The next one is I like to call them developmental problems or issues of learning. I cannot tell you how many people have ID'd a learning issue as an ecology issue when it isn't. And I'll talk more about that. And then the third one are issues around alignment or lack thereof. Ditto.
I see that a lot, lack of alignment.
People who are in a lack of alignment, and that's what I described about being the business growth program, thought I had a problem with my ecology around success mindset, but it turned out to be an alignment issue. Yeah?
I see.
Okay. So I now want to kind of go through these in a little bit more detail. So ecology. Definition for me is very simple. These are unconscious safety and or belonging issues. I just spoke very generally, but it's a useful generalization, okay? So it's a pattern that's being run by the unconscious need to be safe or to belong. And then we include subcategories of to be loved, to have a coherence, to feel, I mean, there's a bunch of sub things, but I like to just summarize them as safety and belonging. I need to stop my website work because if I keep doing it, I'll die. Now, that's not conscious, but it's the unconscious pattern, right? I can't ask for money from my clients because if I do, I won't belong to fill in the blank,
Right.
usually the family. Okay, so that's the definition for us. Now, how do we know it's ecology? This is a really good question. I've done a lot of thinking about this, rather than an alignment issue or developmental issue. One, it's been going on a long time. It's something you've been banging your head against, tried multiple healing modalities, the sucker won't move. Like you can just keep going, boom, hit your head against the wall, okay?
Yep.
If you push against it, like you really, I will make myself do this website, I will make myself do it, I will make myself do it, and then everything collapses.
You've got this down, Leslie. I'm relating.
Okay? It has kind of a viral effect on the stuff around it. This is the things when we push against in our business, and then our whole business kind of stops when we push against it. And then the third, and these are just, again, generalizations, because some of these can look like the others. I mean, they look very similar in many ways. Procrastination can be a developmental issue. It could be an alignment issue, right? Lots of emotion. Terror. You wouldn't say, oh, I'm feeling a little nervous.
I'm gonna die right here in the car.
Terror, desperation, depression, anxiety, despair, intense grief, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Big feelings. Now, this needs to be amended a little bit for the people whose personalities don't tend to do lots of emotions as a general case, because there are people who just are a little bit more chill in life. So what maybe lots of emotion for them might be really different for someone else who tends to like splash around in their emotions a lot. But still, it does tend to hold. These kinds of things, I will become suspicious that it's an ecology issue. Good examples are procrastination, almost always ecology. Fears of being seen that lead to inability to network, create websites, market, that kind of thing. Chronic and debilitating anxiety or depression, a tendency to give away services or undercharge, things like that tend to be these kinds of things. So the question is what to do. So thing number one, my apologies, is if you're hitting ecology, you need to invest in assistance around that pattern. You just kind of do. So one, get help. I want to say that there's tons of ways to work on ecology. There are obvious change work processes like NLP and family constellations, but they're not the only thing. For instance, if you're in business and you don't have some kind of a mindfulness practice or something like that, meditation, prayer, in Christianity, it would be a centering prayer. In Sufism, it would be remembrance. There's lots of different things. But having some practice of being present to your experience without judgment and with curiosity, with some sense of larger transpersonal support. That's how I would summarize that in a non-sectarian way. It's really, that tends to do loads of change work, yeah? And if you have ecology about doing it, then find a community of practice, yeah? Or a teacher, quote unquote, of the practice, something like that. Anyway, but investing in NLP or family constellations or EFT does a little bit of this. Hypnotherapists come from their angle. Yeah, other kinds of stuff. So that's the big ticket thing, but there's some smaller things you do. Don't force. About a year ago, I wrote an article that was very well received called "Don't Poke the Tiger, It Doesn't Like It." Forcing yourself to do stuff that your ecology is forcing you down on. When you force yourself to do it, it'll take a poke, it'll take a poke, it'll take a poke, and then it will rip your face off. Because it doesn't like it. So don't force. However, you want to keep doing what you can do. So momentum. I promise you, there are other things you can stay in action about. Right? Find that and do that. Momentum is very healing. It's very useful, and I'm going to get to this in more detail later on as well. Just work on a few things and allow yourself to feel the success of the things you can work on. It's really, really, really important. I guarantee you, today I still have ecology about large chunks of things that I do or do not do. I just go ahead and do the other things. That's fine, right? And there are a bunch of other tips as well, but those are the main ones. Okay. So this is ecology. These are ecological issues. These are business issues, right? Right? Okay.
I've been through total collapse several times in the last 2 years. It's just exhausting getting out of it.
Yeah. So don't shove up against the things
That's what
that
I'm
are.
learning to do. It's so hard.
Just to back off. Yeah, and that's
Because that contradicts your earlier statement about it's going to take work and you just got to work every day, And so you have these two stories in your head going at you.
Well, and actually, it's interesting. Did you feel the energy of you just got to work and you got to work every day?
Yeah.
I would never say that to anybody.
Oh,
Right?
Okay.
Yeah,
I
would never do that to anybody. I would say you've got to put in the time and you've got to make a commitment, right? Definitely don't work every day. Please don't work every day. And don't do it with that energy.
Right.
You got to
Effort.
Yeah. That doesn't mean there aren't times when you roll up your sleeves and you get to work.
Right.
Like you got through that training you had to do because you're a professional and you did.
Right.
And that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? And you might have felt a little collapsed afterward, but you could also say, I showed up for my
Oh, no,
clients.
that wasn't. No, I'm thinking
No.
of a couple of things where I've kept trying to force through. And not only did I stop doing that thing,
Right.
but then my sense of failure was so
Right.
overwhelming that I
Right.
stopped everything.
Right. So here's the deal. Don't do this. Do this.
Right.
So you don't want to force against the things that are and we can get pretty good at a certain point where you notice, I can feel that thing.
Right.
I'm not going to force that thing.
But I could do something else.
But, I usually like it when I go back to my emails and I check my emails. Or some people really like to sit with their financial spreadsheets and just dicker with them for a while. Or, you know what, I'm just going to write an article that someday I'll post. Right? Just do something, right? Yeah? we want it to eventually be a towards movement. We want business mostly to be, I want to do that. And even the bits we don't like so much, we do because it serves the general outcome. Like setting up your quarterly social security payments is like a perfect example for me of something that I wouldn't do if I, didn't have to. But it serves me in other ways to do that and be kind of really on top of that. So I can kind of get a secondary sense of pleasure out of doing it. Yeah. So, and this is one of the things, it's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that heals this.
Right, that's what I'm finding also,
Yeah.
that I then come back to something that I collapsed over, and suddenly,
Yeah. Action is in itself healing.
yeah, Angelise Arian would say action absorbs anxiety. So
Okay.
however anxious you are, just one small action is better than
Yeah.
nothing.
And that doesn't mean you don't self-manage and take breaks. Oh my God, I got myself so freaked out. I'm gonna walk around the block and come back to it later. I need to hug the puppy dog, get some limbic resonance, feel good about myself again, That's fine. I need to call up a friend and vent. I can't do it. Oh, I know it's really hard right now, but I believe in you. Thank you. That's what I need. Whatever, Okay, so this is ecology. The other two are going to be a little shorter. This is the big topic, but this is the deal. I really want to say this. Because of where we live in the Bay Area right now, everything gets shoved into this basket. So because you don't speak French yet, even though you've never taken a class, what's your unconscious limiting belief about French? And you're like, well, I haven't taken a class. That's why I don't speak French. I'm exaggerating, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a quality in which this is the go-to
That's true.
in the Bay Area. If you go to other parts of the country, I'm sure this is not the case. But it's part of our subculture, right?
That's true.
And the classic version of this is, what's wrong with your success mindset? And it might be, I just need to take a class on how to create a website. I just don't know how to do it yet. Okay. So it's very useful, it's very important, it's very real, but it's not everything. And I want to say the breakthrough for me was when I realized the big thing that was holding me back was an alignment issue, not an ecology issue. That's when my business really shifted gears. That doesn't mean I haven't addressed some major freaking ecology over the last 7 years. I have. Huge pieces. But the alignment piece was the one that took me out of kind of subsistence to something looking like abundance.
Wow.
And sort of being okay. Okay, but I'm gonna do that last. The next one is the developmental issues. And I use two words because the developmental issues and the learning issues are they're not exactly, they cover two things. So one thing is just flat out learning. I don't know how to do it, I need to learn how to do it. Either because I need to take a class or be instructed, or because I just need to do it a bunch of times before I know how to do it, right? There's all kinds of copy I did in my early years that were just pure crap, but I got better by doing it. Another version of this, by the way, is getting someone else to do it. I don't desire to learn that, but there are people who know how to do this thing. I will pay them to do it. Yep. Okay. So that's one thing. So it's literally we might call it education. But the other one is actually about cycles. And this is really useful. So we are very used to the normal sense of a cycle, which is, spring, summer, fall, winter, right? And then it happens again, and then it happens again, and then it happens again. Every new endeavor, whether it's a day-long endeavor or a lifelong endeavor, has a similar kind of a cycle, from some kind of immaturity to some kind of crisis along the way, to deepening maturity, and to wisdom and full commitment. Okay? does this. When you're in one place in the developmental cycle and you're having certain difficult issues, it's normal, right? And there's no fix other than to continue through the cycle.
Right.
That's it. Yeah? So we don't look at the 2-year-old and say, why aren't you understanding the rules around morality in this house yet? Now, some parents do that. Like, why aren't you understanding that's wrong? The brain isn't in the moral development phase yet. It just isn't, right? We don't look at a 2-year-old and say, you suck at quantum calculus, right? We don't look at a baby and say, why aren't you walking yet? Yeah? But we do this to ourselves all the time, mostly because we're just kind of not aware we're in a cycle, yeah? The main one I want to name here is that there's always, we start out with immaturity, which usually has enthusiasm, like, I'm going to go for it, this is cool, I learned this new modality, yay, I'm going to make a living doing this. That's usually kind of what it looks like. And we always hit a phase in here which challenges our ideals, which shows us unexpected sides of what we got ourselves in for, that challenges us in various ways. It doesn't turn, the classic moment is in seminary, because this is a good example for me, when people are all about getting ordained, and then for the first time in their biblical classes, they find out that not all the stories are literally true. And it's just like, Meanwhile, the professors up there, they've been teaching this for the years, and they cannot understand why this is so hard to understand, right? But it's a huge crisis. And then they come through it into a deeper maturity about what these stories mean and how they're really alive, yeah? And then there's some kind of renewed wisdom and commitment that allows for a certain kind of resiliency with the new cycles, yeah? I realized this one day when I was told, I was about 2 years ago, I had to do a lecture for orientation for seminary up on the hill, and I was trying to help them, like, this is what the 3 years could kind of feel like. And then I looked at it and I went, oh, this is like building a business. It's exactly the same. And then I thought, oh, it's probably true of any learning process. Now, I can't go through all the details of cycles, but there's certain things that arise that we tend to think of as ecology issues in cycles that are not. The main one I just want to name, this is just an example, is something I've come to call fraud syndrome. Who am I to do this work with people? I'm just a charlatan.
Everyone else could do this.
Yeah. I shouldn't be charging for this, that sort of thing. I first discovered this, or there's no E on there, is there? Is there an E on there?
Yeah.
There is? Okay.
Yes.
I'm a very good speller, but the minute I do it up on a board, it all looks a little weird. So I was sitting next to, I was my first time being a training assistant, and one of the training assistants for my program was sitting next to me because she was doing another round, and she just looked at me and says, I'm just really struggling. I just think I'm a fraud at this work. And my eyes went wide because of course, from my point of view, she was one of the great ones, right? She was a whole year ahead of me. And I had said, me too. And I went, oh, maybe this is not an ecological issue. Maybe it's a cycle issue. Right. And I thought about it. Fraud syndrome is an inevitable part of any level leap. When you're wanting to go to another level, yeah, and it's new. That's it. It doesn't feel comfortable yet. You aren't confident yet. You shouldn't pretend you're confident. It is new. And you're a bit in that space of the fake it till you make it space. Now, it's not completely faking it. You really do have a skill set if you've been through a year-long training and blah, blah, blah. you actually have more, you have skills, you have real skills. Are you skilled as a person who's been doing it 5 years or 30 years? No. Are you skilled at it as you will be? No. But it is useful to be able to hang out in the place of go, the solution for fraud syndrome is, oh, I am a beginner, and this is new. And to hold it with integrity. And it's gonna pass. There's no fix for this. People should not come to, there are versions of fraud syndrome that are lifelong conditions, and they are more ecological, right? But if you look at your own times when you've had this experience, you're probably gonna notice that it really sort of blossomed during times of what I call level leap. What's the biggest level leap? Starting. It's always the first level leap. From not doing it to doing it. Starting the business. So this is normal. It's not ecology. It says you're on the road. You're trying something new. Yay, you, for feeling like a charlatan.
That's a reframe.
Yeah, I mean, think about all those masters out there. At one point, they were kind of idiotic starters. Right? Okay. And even Bert Hellinger once was a baby and he couldn't even walk. Stupid Hellinger. Right? We only meet these people when they're in mastery. Yeah, this is the problem. Okay, so that's developmental issues. So either it's just an issue that needs some learning, you need support, you need some help. People do, especially so much of being self-employed does have a technological side to it now. It's not avoidable, it's just part of it. You need to kind of be okay about that. But some people do thrash in certain aspects of the technological piece, and they don't get help early enough. If you're thrashing with a website and you haven't tried to get a friend who's good at websites to help you out, or you haven't, or you're thrashing with your newsletter program or your...
What if you can't even work out how to work LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is not the easiest thing in the universe, but again, there are tutorials. George Cow has a really good little teaching thing on it. There are resources. There's this thing called, what is it? Is it Alice? Alice.com?
Oh, I think I've heard of that. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, there's Udemy, which has a lot of online, Udemy. And then I think there's Alice.com, in which people just teach lots of different, very inexpensive online courses on stuff. If you don't know how to use Excel spreadsheets, for $25, stop thrashing.
On several occasions I heard, I'm not a tech person. No. You're filling out a form on a screen. It's paperwork. You're not programming the computer.
Right, well, yeah, and some people just do have reactions.
That might be what your perception is, man.
Some people just do have technology issues. And again, for people who wanted to do family constellations or massage or yoga, they're clearly not choosing to be the IT guy for a business.
Right.
But if you're self-employed, you're going to have to grow some comfort with this. This is what I learned with the website thing, is that you can learn, but you don't have to learn everything, and there is help. Okay? Okay. Last, alignment. Issues of alignment or being out of alignment. So this one tends to be the least visible. I don't think that's universally true. I just find that locally. Even when people are talking about alignment, they're talking about it in a ecology kind of a way. I think that's really the framework people have. We all get off course. You must get off course. If you're not getting off course, sometimes you are not bothering to try anything new. Okay? So when I say about being in alignment and being successful in business, it's in alignment enough. enough. I'm a big fan of that word, enough, you know? Because if you're not, I promise you, if you are willing to put yourself wholeheartedly into marketing, probably 5 to 10% of what you write is not going to be really in alignment. You're only going to notice it afterwards. Like, wow, I said that in an over-exaggerated way. I use really common cultural language for that I don't actually really believe in. Oh, that stock photo was so that I used. Yeah, if you're going to write anything, sometimes you're going to not be aware that you're not using your own voice. It just kind of happens. So, but the solution to that is not to not write anything at all, right? We want to be in alignment enough, and then that allows us to get off course on occasion, and then we can go, huh, I wonder if I'm in alignment or not with whatever it is. Now here's the deal with us. If we get out of alignment enough, there's like a little inner like barometer, and if there's like a click.
I'm very
on this
aware
side of it, we're like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone of alignment. And then we go over that, and then our inner wisdom shuts us down. And that's what happened to me in that business growth program. I was trying to do stuff mostly around hard selling tactics that seemed to be the way you were supposed to do it. And I was trying to do it, and God, did I suck at it. And I tried to get better at it, and people would just sit there and stare at me, and it's not that they would get upset with me or anything, it's just no one would buy, right? And so my inner wisdom would not let me do it well. It just wouldn't let me do it because it was out of alignment with who I was. It was not a success mindset then. Okay. So this is why this is so important for people in this room, yeah, and online. That if we don't attend to issues of alignment, our inner wisdom will kind of fuck shit up. Sorry, my French there. It will. Okay. It's the alignment version of the tiger. So what that means is we need, well, let me come back to examples of this. Marketing we've been told to do but can't make ourselves do. Networking events that are in alignment with our values.
Right.
Like, and values is a little strong of a word, but they're just, it's not my thing. Whatever's going on there is kind of not my thing. Services we think we should offer, but it turns out that's not what we like doing. So for instance, I was having a conversation with a client who was like, you need to help me, I need to do these workshops, I have a friend and we have this opportunity and I was listening and I'm like, okay, there could be a college here, I'm checking in. Then I just finally said, do you want to do that workshop with him? Big pause. No. Okay. But people do show up with opportunities for us to join into pieces of work that sound like they'll really help us move forward. And they feel like they make a lot of sense. And we zoom right past the question of whether we want to do it or not. By the way, I'm going to just say a lot of this gets fueled by scarcity mentality. EU. So when we think we don't have enough money, we're going to say yes to a whole lot of stuff that may not feel very good.
In fact, I find the classes more expensive, more attractive as my circumstances look worse. It's like, oh, I must obviously have to spend quadruple the amount on this class.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Yeah. That's a really great example of, we do need to invest in our businesses and have, business classes and business growth opportunities. But it doesn't mean that the top ticket thing isn't the best. Probably the cheapy might not. I remember my dad, Tyler was a bit of a miser. And so he would get the biggest shit he could get at Radio Shack. So we'd get these huge TVs that didn't work. I remember these humongous speakers he got me for college. Remember when we had speakers
Yep.
with our stereo systems?
Yep.
These things were huge. They were like nightstand tables. They were pieces of crap. So well, I don't recommend that end of the spectrum. You want to invest in quality. But there are people who charge crazy stuff out there, and it's just not necessary. So again, but alignment helps us feel into that. Yeah, rather than the scarcity mentality fueling us into making choices that actually are not grounded. And scarcity mentality will cause us to say yes to opportunities, like a partnership with someone. I have to say yes to every opportunity, or that'll get me seen by various people in a certain context. That'll be really, and then you don't take the time to go, oh, but I kind of don't want to do that. Not in an attitude-y kind of
It's a
way.
tough one, Leslie. This week, for the first time, I spent several hours deciding whether to say yes to one of the training jobs I'd been
Yeah.
offered. And the first thought was, I don't want to drive all the way to Modesto for an hour
Right,
on a Friday afternoon, right?
Right.
I mean, we're talking some serious traffic and exhaustion and not even, but in the end, and then everyone said, no, don't do it. But in the end, I thought, maybe I've got to the point where it would just be discipline. I don't have much money coming in that week. That's some money. Set off on time, go and do it, come back. So I
Right.
was really torn between, am I in alignment with myself, or am I just starting to get blasé and not wanting to do?
so you're in the sweet zone
Oh, am I?
because you're asking the questions
Oh, okay.
and you're doing active, this is called discernment,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what would have been, let me say this bluntly, I wouldn't normally say it this way, but what would have been the wrong thing to do would be to, oh, I'll do it because I have to.
Right.
I'll just do it because I have to.
Right.
That's probably scarcity.
Yeah.
Or, I'm not doing that, I don't want to do stuff. That's probably ecology,
Right.
right?
Right.
That sort of, resistance to opportunities, right? But if you have a discernment process, you can inquire with yourself. And you make your best guess. I mean, every time, I really sit in discernment about stuff, and every once in a while, when I'm all done and I do the thing, I'm like, I got the discernment wrong.
Right. I
Right.
probably have in this case, but
Right, but this gets back to the presupposition about learning.
Yeah.
Maybe I needed to experience that to know I don't want to do that.
Right.
Really good to know,
Right.
yeah? I remember there's a good example of this. Someone hired me to do a private constellation all the way down in friggin' San Jose.
yeah.
And I said yes to it mostly out of a scarcity mentality. And then, of course, at that point I was committed and I'm like, Leslie, I'm never doing this again. I'm not going to do this. Went down there, had the most amazing frigging experience with these 6 women. I was so glad I'd done it. Like, it was fueled by scarcity, but it ended up being in alignment.
Right.
They were so cool. So at any rate, but having a discernment process is important. So that gets back to what I was saying about some kind of a mindfulness practice, some remembrance, because that's what I learned from Heart of Business. The world is filled with these. Basically, to seek inner and outer guidance and develop, here's the deal, you develop some capacity for noticing what's ecology and what's alignment.
Right.
And you do start getting good at this,
Mhm.
or good enough at this, truly. But without it, we're just shooting in the dark. We really are, about whether we're doing what we actually want to do.
Well, I find if I've used some discernment, whichever way I've decided, at least I show up with some sense of inner integrity.
Yeah, commitment.
I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
blaming, I'm not a victim. I chose. Whether
Yes.
I chose right
Nice.
or wrong was beside the point,
Nice.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'm responsible for myself and I behave better.
Yeah. So the universe made me.
Exactly. Poor me, I had to accept the job in Modesto.
And then like the 25% unemployed of Modesto will go, poor baby.
Exactly. Precisely.
The other thing that's connected to this, so I'm not going to put more because it all comes under this rubric, is you begin to gain the ability to notice when something is out of alignment without judgment. Like, oh, I did that, or I'm doing this, and it's not part of me. You know, the without judgment piece is really, really useful. And this is something I'm terrible at, but when I do it, I can attest that this is important, is to do our discernment practices in non-business contexts, AKA morning meditation or going to church or whatever the things we like to do, right? It's having a life in which we bring that kind of set of open-hearted awareness to lots of contexts, including business, rather than only business.
Right.
Now, for most of us, it would be the other way around. We bring it to every context but business. But time is cool. I'm running a little ahead. This is good. So at this point, I actually wanted you all to do a quick constellation for yourselves. And then we're going to come back for a discussion of this and any questions about it. Nice thing, Christina, is that you can do this on your own. All the other exercises at this point are individually done ones. So let me actually write this up on the board. Should move that. That's good. So you're going to have essentially 4 cards. Slips of paper, stickies, Christina, whatever you got handy. Let's see if I can get enough. Let's cut in half. I start getting self-conscious about how many cards I use and I cut them in half. So 4 each. See if that's enough. If not, I will grab some more.
Oh, we've got tons here, Leslie.
You're going to choose a problem in your life.
Okay.
In your business, that is, right? Card number 1, once you've decided the problem, you're gonna write the problem on there. Literally those words, you don't have to write, if your problem is a 20-word problem, just write down the problem. So that the field is gonna know that it's your specific problem. And then the other 3 are these categories. So 2 is ecology. 3 is learning. We'll just have it underneath that. And 4 is alignment. Okay. So everyone just take a moment and think about the problem you would like to, again, we're not going to fix anything with this little constellation. We're just going to move you into the field of what kind of problem is it? Okay, so everyone choose your problem. Can't do my website. Victoria might hit that ceiling thing. For me, I'd probably, and this is obviously ecology, more or less. It's a little bit of a developmental thing, but my workaholism, it's actually, I've learned from my own coach that it's a characteristic of the phase of business I'm in. Moving from the business of level of kind of making enough to actually moving into something that kind of generates income reliably year after year. that phase apparently is a phase in which people tend to have to work very hard to get to that next level. It's just one of those phases. So it is a bit of a developmental thing, but I actually think I've been doing it a bit longer than that. So that's the issue I would choose for mine. So choose your issue. Everyone got your issue? Okay. And so now what you're gonna do, and I'm gonna invite you to do this a little bit on your own, but you're gonna basically, let's say this is you, looking down from the ceiling on the top of your head. So you're facing forward, and you might have step onto the problem, and then step off, and then try ecology. What does that feel like? Try learning. What does that feel like? Try alignment. See what that feels like. You're looking for some kind of a match, but also you just may get information because, as we noticed before, any given problem could have elements of all three.
Right.
Okay, so invite you to just kind of like, step into these and step out and be a little creative with yourself and see what you notice, see what the field can teach you about the nature of your problem with respect to these three categories. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to do that. And if you need help, please call me on over. I'm available to support you in troubleshooting, stepping into things, reporting out a little bit.
Can I change the problem I was going to work on?
So you need to sort of really step off, pick up the cards, really kind of do an erase. No, it's all fine. Please change your problem. If you just kind of upgraded your problem from the one you had, like you just wanted to, you were in there and you discovered a little bit of a nuance on it, then by all means you continue what you've got. But if you've chosen a whole new one, just step out, create a new field. Otherwise, you will get unclear information. And by the way, the coughing thing is part of whatever you're.
It's totally bothering.
I was noticing that too.
I think it'd be better to do this blind.
That would be fine too. Yeah.
Actually, because
So for those of you who don't know what Victoria means, blind would be having the problem cards, not number 1, but 2, 3, and 4, turned upside down. And then step onto them without any agenda
exactly.
about
It's easier for me
what
to
it
work
should
with.
be like. And then you turn it over and go, oh,
Just noticing which one I want to go towards.
So-
etc.
Alignment, learning, and ecology are kind of blank cards. You just put the name in it, but you don't describe anything.
no. Just right, that's the representation, is ecology, learning, or alignment.
Okay.
I'm just gonna see if Christina has been sending me a chat or anything.
So. Leslie?
Yeah, one second, I'm just checking out Christina's comments. Okay.
So the problem itself made me cough. Right? So-
Sure, okay.
And this is the one, the other two felt kind of what I want to call clean, quite clear, there was no energy.
Mhm.
And this one feels horrible to stand on. So will that,
Is it similarly horrible to the problem? It might not be the same
no,
horrible.
it's totally different, horrible.
Let's see.
It's all up the legs.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Learning. So what does that mean?
It means, so we're not gonna be like literal about this,
Okay,
but the information is leading you towards the possibility what you've got here is mostly a cyclical or simple learning issue.
okay.
It's a developmental issue. It's like, you know, you're a baby, we don't expect you to be able to walk yet. Or,
Yeah, that's not in context with the problem.
what's the problem?
Actually, the problem is I work for EAP companies and a third one's just taken me on. But I was sold them as a very upmarket, great staff, and I've been kind of shocked by the quality of their stuff, and they don't actually pay as well as the other two I work for.
Okay.
So I'm
What's the
experiencing a lot of resentment whether I should go with them or not, because they're perceived as cool and special. And so if I turn them down, I'm maybe making a mistake, but I kind of resent agreeing to work with them.
So,
Scarcity is.
to me, it makes a great deal of sense to me that primarily this is a learning issue about who you want to work with.
There you go, thank you. Okay. Right.
Or,
They're the ones who
or
think
even
that,
if we
so-
put it in if you decided to work with them, what you do have a tolerance for working with or don't.
Right, very little is the truth.
So that's what it feels like to me.
So it's about my own learning about the situation and who I want to work with. So it's nearly an alignment thing.
There's a bit of alignment stuff in there, and there's probably the intensity of the reaction is probably a bit of ecology. I'm
Right?
getting caught in something, blah, 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 all those stories, right?
It didn't feel like that. Right?
yeah.
No.
And the alignment piece could be, about learning who it's in alignment to work with, right?
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah. So now go ahead and step on them again, just to continue to get information now that you know.
It's just because, in a way, I want someone to give me the courage to not work with them. Or to go into them and say, I'll work with you, but you need to be employing me in a different capacity. It's my truth.
Yeah, and so what I'm hearing in the learning coming up most strongly is the story you want to tell yourself is that I'm so frightened of not having enough money.
Right.
I need someone to help me say no to these people.
Exactly.
Whereas the learning issue tells you you're actually plenty capable of saying yes or no. You just need to learn who you want to say yes or no to. It's a place of greater sovereignty over there. That choosing thing that you're talking about. And maybe the field is telling you you're actually not as stuck in that ecology as you have the impression that you are. Nice little resonances of old
Nothing
stories.
came up in ecology at all.
Yeah.
The emotion, both second times down.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an ecology
Although
issue.
the wanting help bit that you said does fit with the learning. Because learning, sometimes what you need is someone to help you do the
Learn
learning.
how to navigate something with respect and not behave in my old act out way, but as an adult.
You're also learning a lot about EAPs.
I'm learning about EAPs. I'm learning a lot about how to navigate that world of EAPs, which is quite a different world.
You betcha.
And as a player in that game, I'm noticing how unskilled I am.
That's such a, in 5 years, you're not gonna have this problem.
Right.
It's a learning issue.
It is a learning issue. You're quite right.
Are you doing anything in your regard?
What's an EAP?
I'm just going over
Employee
my
assistance
notes
program.
about the ecology, just trying to understand.
Mhm. So just go ahead and be in the field a little bit. Try not, and let's see if I can help you out. What's your problem?
Well, it's the way when we started, just kind of like getting to know what I want, but it's also part of getting to know me. They go hand in hand.
What's the business issue? The part of the issue with constellations is being slightly crisp with a question,
Yeah.
because if it's a vague question, you get vague responses, right? So what's the
So what do I
business?
wanna do when I grow up? I mean, that's basically the stage where I'm at.
So-
You know,
And posed as a business issue? Because the way you said it actually presupposes the ecology. You are picking up.
yeah, yeah.
So what's the business issue? How would you pose it as a business thing?
I don't know, I draw a blank.
I mean, it's simple, I want to start a business, but I don't know what.
Well, I wanna earn money,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanna do what I love to do for the rest of my life.
But
I don't have a clue as to what that is.
that's good. That's the problem. That's good. Yeah. Kind of.
So I phrase it as getting to know what I want to do, but getting a clue.
Yeah, that's fine, and just as long as it's specifically about business, right? But that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So, and I'm gonna just separate these just a little bit more, so you have a little bit more standing room,
Mhm.
just so that they can really show up as separate things.
Yeah.
So
So with the ecology of it, it's like
I should, report in. What's that like?
I quit my job in January.
Don't think about it. What's the representation like? What are you having there? Fear, happiness, joy, freaked outedness? Confusion? What's the experience?
I'm grounding.
Okay. What happens? Nice.
Off balance.
Okay,
Grounding, off balance.
okay. Okay, good. So step off of that and step into the learning one. Hope you're having a good time, Christina, with yours. What's going on there?
Mm. I just got this visual of just like a road, kind of like a small road ahead. I don't know, kind of like an adventure, but in slow motion.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense to me. Let's step off of that and go on to the last one. We'll do this for another minute or two. And I'll come over and check in with you, Saul, if you don't need to in just a second. And what's that like? You need a little more heat?
Oh, sightseeing.
Oh, okay.
At this point, I've got really interesting results that are being nice and stable, and I'm left scratching my head. And at this point, it's also sightseeing the room.
What's going on there, Suzanne?
There is a lot of grounding on the alignment. It's from this kind of warmth out under my hand.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, if I were to sort of grossly it's you than is that you tend to hang out more or less in a space of alignment. So it's not a struggle with being in alignment with yourself. It feels more like ecology, often in ecology, not knowing what to do is a safety pattern. It keeps us safe. Has the impression of keeping us safe. It can also, as you can imagine, have ancestral belonging things around not knowing what to do or not having a thing for you that you get to have, because that's part of the theme that came up in your introduction. And the road is the learning. So there's a learning issue, developmental.
Yeah.
You are starting.
Yeah, no, and I have some
Yeah.
major learning disabilities.
Yeah. Well, and if, I had a thought and it went away. Never mind. Okay, and then Saul, anything you want to check in about?
Okay, let's see. Wound up shuffling the cards around in 3 different locations just to see if I could keep getting more or less the same stuff. Ecology.
So what's the problem, first of all?
Problem, getting things started. Where do I get the money? How do I keep things funded?
Okay, step off for a second. You're probably gonna get very confused information because that's a very imprecise problem. It's probably 3 problems in there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let me tell you what I've got. So that's the problem.
Okay,
So ecology, very steadily in all of it. Basically, what I'm getting is just very steady. Bits and pieces of fear along with, oh crap, that one again, not nice background, no encouragement, so forth, so on.
Okay.
Yeah.
got it, yeah.
Learning, very distinct impression of, oh, tightrope walking, but very clear tightrope. Along will come knives, but okay, that's just to learn to juggle them, to keep balancing on the tightrope, keep working on the learning, just keep going along. Alignment, that one was just straight, solid, planted,
Okay.
really in place. What's really weird on this one, started over there, facing that way.
So just give me the Cliff Notes version. What's the experience over here
I
generally?
keep losing balance heading in that direction, so my sudden question is, okay, what the hell is it in that physical direction that's pulling me? Which is why I kept rotating things around, just to check, is it pulling me off to my right, which is what is agreeing with me? No, it's just that physical direction, never mind which way I'm facing.
Okay, so well, that message is fairly straightforward. It's I want to leave. That's the door.
Ah,
I mean, it's the only thing that's unique in that direction,
okay,
you know?
okay.
I mean,
I
right?
was thinking geography, but okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
and it fits up with the sense of managing danger or lack of support over there
Right.
on both of those two. Tightrope,
Oh,
no
okay.
support. If I don't do it in exactly this line, then it's done, everything, I'm gonna die.
Okay.
And then over here, the not getting encouragement. So let's gather and talk. Good job. So Christina, we're regathering now for a final conversation before lunch. So, gathering up what we learned in the lecture, as well as what you just learned in your little constellations. What are your questions? What would you like to share?
Well, your comment was, wants to leave, that's gonna be, okay, leave what and why, or did I miss the question?
So I need a longer conversation about your context to be
Yeah.
able to actually give
That's-
any
but yeah,
meaningful
yeah,
response,
that's what
but
comes to mind, yeah.
having said that, when we're managing unconscious safety and belonging issues, which came up clearly in a couple of the representations, one of the things that commonly the unconscious, the solution, non-solution to that in the unconscious space is to leave. Now, leaving can be done in lots of different ways. I mean, literally, people can die themselves out. You know, it's like, this is too hard. I'm going to get hit by a bus. But it can be not finding answers to questions, staying plateaued, getting fired. There's all sorts of ways for that meaning to show up. And if we're doing leaving, if leaving is what's happening, it is very hard for an actual solution to arise or to be found, right? If we're leaving, we're not going to be creatively problem solving.
Can I ask what the problem was that we're discussing these
The
reactions?
words are lack of certain business support / money as the stated problem. This moment I'm noticing, okay, maybe that wasn't quite the exact, basically of the other three, very solid reactions and so forth. What was really weird was everything just kept going in that direction, so I kept shuffling around trying to figure out what it was and started thinking.
And it kept telling you to leave the circle altogether, in a sense.
Well, no, I came up with the leaving. He just said that every time he stood on the problem, regardless of where he was oriented, wherever he put down the card, the direction still was to go that way.
And she said, the door, which went, oh, whoops, looking too far. I wasn't looking at the door.
Well, and another interpretation is you're looking for the vision still. How can you ask for support and money if you don't know what it's for?
The only reason why that didn't come to me, I mean, it is possible, is that the way you were talking about it was as a kind of a falling,
Yeah.
rather than
It was basically
turning
a
and
loss
putting-
of balance. I
Yeah.
kept pulling that way and I'm going, what the hell is in that direction? I wasn't
Right.
thinking of the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, except that the door is there. So
Oh, yeah.
you weren't being pulled to this curtain.
I wasn't, I was thinking general.
Yeah, he was
Physical
thinking maybe
geography.
north or Vallejo.
No,
or-
that's what
So, and again, as I said, constellation should not be literalized.
Yeah.
Hang out in the metaphorical space
Yeah.
of a little bit, okay? Other questions or comments on your experience? Or just generally, theoretically, whatever.
Well, I'm just one really sitting here with just feeling so heartened, you know, because I just feel like I've been shuffling around this for years, and it's slowly I'm getting clarity and focus and direction, and in both the problems I gave, they were neither alignment or ecology issues. They were clearly developmental and learning, and for me that feels good because that's my next.
Yeah,
And it gives me, because I tend to go to ecology very fast, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
my fallback. It's all my fault. I'm a mess. You know, I'm broken. Blah
right,
blah.
right.
Bullshit, right?
Yeah,
This clearly said no. You just got to go and do some work. You got to learn, find the right information. You know, and that
and
feels-
allow yourself time to acquire
that.
wisdom.
Yes, and that feels encouraging.
Yeah. And by the way, that's extremely common. I've done this tons of times with people, reframed a problem as a developmental issue and they feel relief. However, you can imagine it working the other way. So imagine someone who's been trying to learn French and not succeeding at it. And this is going to be a silly example, but what the heck,
Right.
silly examples work. And you know, in order to get their job promotion, they've got to learn the French. And they're like, I'm an idiot, I'm not learning properly, whatever it is. And then we do a constellation and find out that a grandfather was murdered by a Frenchman,
Right.
you know, or something, right? And
There's an alignment issue.
well, it would be an ecology issue
Oh,
in
that
that
would be an
case,
ecology
right?
issue,
Right,
yeah.
unconscious belonging
Okay.
and safety issues. So, and then after the constellation, all of a sudden learning French becomes really easy. Now, that's a silly example, but there are plenty of examples like that, where something that they were trying to learn and was named as a learning issue, all we had to do was like set up the family system, and it was fairly easily, sort of work. So you can imagine the relief going, the relief is not in finding out it was a learning issue, but finding out the correct category for the issue.
Right, it's just, I guess, when I
I know
came
for
to
you
work with
particularly.
you years ago
Yeah.
here on a money workshop, which
Yeah.
I've still got my notes on, I just saw how many of my issues around money were ecological.
Right.
And they don't seem to be jumping up as much, which
Yeah.
suggests to me some of them
Yeah.
are being let go,
Yeah.
which is.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
for you it would be a great relief, absolutely. And all I want to do is name for different people.
Oh, yeah,
and
no,
it's
they're
gonna
all
be
different. No, I get
different.
that.
It's just finding, it's like, oh, the fever is due to the wrong medication. Oh, the fever is due to the fact that I have cancer I need to start treating. Oh, the fever is due to the flu, which will pass soon, right? Okay, Susanna, anything in particular?
It was a great exercise. I liked it, and the insight that you gave me about the commitment that as a piece of the ecology, as the safety and belonging, and I think it's just a very rich place. My suspicion is it comes down the chain from ancestors.
Not being allowed to know or not having the impression we have the permission to know, fill in the blank, so often a belonging issue.
Mhm.
It's so frequently, and by its nature, therefore also a safety issue. Like if I know, will things get really dangerous? But, yeah.
Some work to be done.
For us
The nice thing is you're very resourced to do some of that work.
Oh,
At least
yeah.
in at least small ways. I mean, these are little adjustments we can make for ourselves along the way. Little mini constellations. Sometimes we hit something. I've got one issue, it's a personal issue, it's not a business issue, that it's been one of those headbangers. And I've just renewed my commitment to get some good change work expertise to help change it, because it's one of those 5-star ecology things.
Yum, yum, yum.
So any last comments or anything? I'm gonna send you off to lunch now, but anything before we go? Any questions about anything we went over? How are you feeling? Are you liking the material? Is it feeling useful?
Excellent so far.
Yeah, I it's so rich, and there's just so much here.
Yeah. You're very useful.
Okay, good.
I love the whole you've put a lot of wisdom and years of experience into this, so
Yeah,
thank you.
it's mostly watching myself and watching other people struggle with this stuff.
Right.
And because I was trained in NLP and family constellations, trying to turn everything into the nail of ecology, mostly on myself, right? You have a hammer,
Is that what
everything is a nail.
NLP does?
No. I mean, if you're a massage practitioner, everything's a body issue, right?
Right,
It's not anything NLP does. It's just
Oh.
that was my tool set.
right.
That was my toolkit. If you're just a business coach and you don't have any change work things, you might want to add those into your toolkit. I just had a hammer, so I made everything nails. And then I noticed having a few other tools, especially the alignment thing, which I need to give full props to Heart of Business for
I
really.
can't wait to go and buy that book. You're referring to it so much.
Which book?
Heart of Business.
It's not a book, it's a website, heartofbusiness.com.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
thank
Heartofbusiness.com.
you. Okay.
And they have a bunch of nice little free resources.
Great.
If the way I talk is in alignment for you, another resource is you can join their community membership on a sliding scale down to $4 a month. Please don't do that, give them more than that. But, and you get to join in basically on their free coaching, and it's group coaching. So it's not very, you get what you pay for, but it's nice. and their live spiritual practices around business stuff,
Oh, cool.
which is very nice. They do this remembrance call every Monday at noon time that I try not to miss, for instance. And so I like you were saying, you don't need to pay top dollar for everything. It's a very nifty little resource for not a bunch of money, and it feels good. So I will send you off to lunch now, Christina, everybody. It is now 12:38. I'm gonna give you to 2 o'clock. Okay, so that's not quite an hour and a half. Does anyone have any questions about food resources? Everyone know what they're gonna do?
I have a couple of sandwiches. I'm going to pick a corner and read.
Yeah. I'm gonna sit here and eat my sandwich and get some work done. Do you guys know food around here?
I do. There's a place down there when I was here, one workshop before, straight down this street on the right. But I also might, since we've got so long, walk over. So
Right, so there's tomato, that's the, I think called the Tomato Cafe or
that's right,
something like that. It's perfectly fine.
It's not.
Susanna has now been to Vic's.
Oh, where's Vic's?
It's just down Channing.
Oh, where is Channing?
So it's 1 block that way
Okay.
on 6th and
Okay.
2 blocks that way on Channing.
Okay.
So it's 1 block and 2 blocks. So it's a little bit further than the cafe, but it is really good South Indian street food.
We'll have fun.
It's delicious. And then, yes, if you walk over to University, there are
I think
a
you're
few
Fourth
other
on the other side.
opportunities.
Street.
4th Street over.
If you want to go that far, if you want to go all the way over to 4th Street, you can do
I
that.
suppose it being a Saturday, there'll be long lines, but anyway. But we've got quite a long time. Because the other thing, if you want to do a slightly shorter lunch and finish earlier, does that mess you up terribly?
No, that doesn't mess me up at all. We don't have Christina's assent to that.
Okay.
Christina, go ahead and call me if you're still listening, because we need to talk anyway. Yeah, I mean, if you want to start at 10 of 2. The thing is that by the time you walk to where you need to go,
That's true.
and eat the food and stand on a line,
Exactly. Yeah.
I consider 1.25 hours to be kind of the
Yeah.
minimum
Civilized.
of
I
what
agree
you
with
need to, not
Thank you.
throw food down your gullet.
Right.
I tried to do shorter lunches and everybody comes back late.
Exactly what happens. It's so
But
frustrating.
let's start at 1. Let's be here
At
at
2.
1, at 2, excuse me, and we'll start at 2 o'clock.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Although actually the questions that come to mind are, do you know what that is?
these are all Sufi. I did not know that until I once had an Iranian in the room.
Mhm.
And he was representing something and he said, by the way, those are all Rumi quotes.
Oh, okay.
So you see it's Arabic down on the bottom.
Yeah.
Do you want
This is obviously
Yeah, go together.
stylized
Yeah.
calligraphy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I was recognizing that it was definitely calligraphy of some
I
sort. that
just
into a
love
picture.
your little
And
stickers.
there's no idea.
yeah, no, it's Sufi.
You know,
I didn't know, for years I was thinking it was some kind of Hindu thing, but of course it's Arab.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly. No.
But it's usually the rule against making images. I mean, there was an era where that was a strict rule, but.
You go to the side.
So, Christina, I'm gonna try.
You're right, I was
Oh,
looking
she
at
left.
last
Zero
weekend.
Q.
because I was on the park.
She's not here.
And
They have a basket full.
I'm going to go in there next time.
And they're-
Because like,
they're
there's so
like-
many things where you have to take your shoes off. I mean, that's my feet get.
They're great for airplanes, for yoga,
Yes.
for.
Hi, Christina, how's it going? Good.
I'm going to leave my socks here. That's okay, isn't it?
Yes, there is. There's a, yeah, the version you're using has a bit of a delay.
Oh, it's so great, thank you.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't get stressed out. I just like, that's the way it is. Do you want to join live? We can troubleshoot that very quickly. Well, Oh, sure, just mute your computer. Just turn the sound off on your computer. So what I'm gonna do then is I'm gonna hang up on this because I don't want it to like record for the next hour and a half anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and hang up on that, and whatever you have in front of you,